So currently in Principles of Chemistry, which is what I teach, we use a pre-post test. And so we give at the very beginning of the semester, very first day, we give a pre-test to kind of see where they're starting from. And then as part of the lab exam, which happens about midterm, we include the same test as part of the lab exam as a post test. And then we can compare, not student per student, but just overall what our gains were. So what questions were high improvement, what questions were low improvement. We, at that point, sit down with all the numbers, and there's 5 full-time faculty members. There's a lot of numbers even on the first round of testing. So we sit down, we look at the numbers, we decided what questions, so we covered a variety of questions in the pre-post test. It was actually 10 questions. So we decided where we were missing. And we looked through the lab manual and where we could make changes. And so we added in, and it was over several semesters with changes we made and what targets we hit. But we even went to the point where we changed actual labs. We wrote new labs. We added extra exercises to the appendix of the lab manual to be used, and looked at what kind of improvement we saw following that. We also had, and it was just, as we looked at the data, we pulled it all together, but at one point we realized one particular faculty member always had particularly good gains, and so he let us observe his classroom, what he does in lab, and we kind of got a feel for how he does things a little bit differently than us and how that may be improving their student results. In addition to all of this, at this point, we've kind of we've been doing this for a while. We've actually made some additional review videos for the students for the lab content. Well, I think the successes are those changes that we've been able to come together and talk about and actually incorporate into the lab manual. And this is a long process, getting someone to do a video, do a review video, observe someone who we think is doing a really great job to see what it is that's different than what we're doing. Those would be the main successes, that we've actually been able to make changes to what we're doing and see student improvement. The struggles, I think, so we started out with what was really a great assessment. So we had a faculty member who had some experience with this, and we started out with a really solid, good assessment tool. The struggles, I think, now are we've used the tool, we've modified what we're doing, we've seen good results with the tool, and I think it's time to move on to possibly moving on to another tool. I think that choice of when do you say, we've gotten everything we can get from this assessment, when do you move on to something else? And that's been our struggle. So we have 5 full-time faculty members that are teaching the class currently, and that's pretty much the number. The adjuncts initially weren't involved at all, and so we worked on this behind the scenes. And then once we rolled out, got our first round of numbers and made some changes, they were welcome to participate in the conversation looking at our numbers. And a few of them actually did. They came to World Cafe, sat down with us, looked at the numbers, and we discussed changes to make. They did not initially give that assessment, though. Once we've done it, 1 or 2 semesters, we brought them in and we gave them the pre and post test to include as part of their course. And it was super easy for them because we provided them with what they needed, and they just gave us back those Scantrons that they used. And so their efforts were much appreciated, but we also didn't ask them to do far beyond really the call of duty. You know, assessment is scary at first, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I was lucky enough to be working with someone who did. But we have the Office of Outcome Assessments that can always help, and in addition to that, you're doing this. You're already writing exams, you're already doing questions, you're thinking about student learning, and so now it's just time to find a place where this fits in for you, and that's what we did. We found our lab exam was where we had a commonality among many sections where this would fit really well. And you take something you're already doing and you make it work for assessment. You don't need to reinvent the wheel.